Hey guys, hope everyone's doing well. Welcome to this week's Random Ramble. And this week I wanted to talk to you about cravings and about reliance on particular foods and how a lot of people find, or at least they blame, a dependency on a particular food as the reason that they struggle to lose weight long term. Now, a few of you may have saw that last week I put a post up on my personal page where I asked whether people found it harder to lose weight in the summer or in the winter. And I got about 50 comments on that post, which is great because it was quite an interesting insight. And what was really fascinating was that people were saying, no matter what season they picked, they were saying that they found it harder to lose weight during that season, mainly because of a particular food or drink that is associated with that season. They genuinely believed that having that available, or having that association with having to eat it at that time of year, was the reason that they were going to struggle to continue losing weight throughout that season. Now, this is really, really common. It's a conversation that I have with lots and lots of people. And we've all been there. We've all been in a situation where we're craving something so drastically. Let's say it's chocolate. We finally cave. We go to the shop and we buy a bar of chocolate. Of course, we don't just buy a little bar of chocolate because we don't think that's going to hit the spot. We buy a big bar of chocolate. And then we get home and we open it and we convince ourselves, right, I'm only going to have a little bit because, I don't want this to completely ruin my diet. But what happens is you have a little bit more. And before you know it, you've eaten the entire thing. Now, the reality is this one bar of chocolate isn't going to be the difference between you losing weight long term or not. I mean, it's only going to be, 700, 800 calories if you get a really big bar. In the long term, that's nothing. However, what tends to happen is it messes with your mindset a little bit. If you eat an entire bar of chocolate, you kind of get into this attitude of, I can't do it. I cannot stick to weight loss long term. There is no way I'm going to be able to give up chocolate long term to be able to hit my goals. And either straight away you get into a situation where you just give up there and then, or the idea of giving up slowly starts to creep in, and it's not long until you just pack it in completely. Every single person in this group who is trying to lose weight has been in that scenario at some point. It might not be chocolate, it may not be exactly like that, but you have been in that situation before. So I've got a couple of pointers that I think can really be the difference between that happening and not, and you sticking to things long term. Now, in my opinion, there are two reasons that happens. One is that you are actually hungry, and the other is that you're actually just being too restrictive. And I'm going to start with being too restrictive because that is the most common one. Now, when I talk to a lot of people about what they've struggled with losing weight, I quite often go into what their diet has actually looked like in the past. And more often than not, what people will say to me is, oh, I've given up bread, crisps, chocolate, and alcohol in order to help me lose weight. I don't know why poor bread gets thrown into that category, but I can understand why crisps, chocolate, and alcohol are really obvious targets to cut out. And then what I found is I really can't live without it, so I end up in that situation that I just described. And the reality is, you do not need to give up anything, okay? I've said this before and I'll say it a million times in the future. When it comes to weight loss, the only thing that matters isn't what you're eating, it's the quantity, it is the calories, okay? If you are consuming more calories than you are burning, you will gain weight. To reverse that, if you're consuming less calories than you are burning, you will lose weight. And there's absolutely no reason that you cannot fit in some kind of sweet treat or an alcoholic drink or a packet of crisps into your weekly calories, or maybe even daily calories in some extremes, to ensure that you're not being too restrictive and that you're not feeling like you're missing out on things. Now, obviously, I'm not saying try and eat a massive bar of Cadbury's whole nut every single day, because that's going to make it incredibly difficult. However, there's no reason you can't have a big bar of Cadbury's whole nut in the fridge and just have a couple of strips every single day. That's going to be maybe 100, 200 calories. Most people can probably fit that into their day if they really need to have that sweet fix. So the first thing to take home is, do not be too restrictive. We're not trying to come up with a short-term diet here. We're not just eliminating things until you've lost your weight and then reintroducing them, because you're just going to lose that weight again. What we're trying to do is create a lifestyle that you can actually maintain for the rest of your life, so that when you've lost the weight, you will keep it off. Now, the second possible scenario here is that the reason you give in and you end up going to those quick foods and really craving them is actually because you're hungry. It's got nothing to do with the fact you're being too restrictive. It's because you're actually hungry. And when we are hungry, we crave those foods that give us a quick fix. We crave those things that are going to give us a really big, quick sugar hit. I mean, when have you ever been hungry and thought to yourself, oh, I really fancy a packet of carrot sticks? No one ever has been in that situation. When you're hungry, your mind drifts towards some kind of indulgent meal or to a chocolate bar or something like that. So what may actually be happening is that the foods you're eating, the foods that you're actually relying on, aren't controlling your appetite enough. And there could be a few different reasons for this. You may find that actually your calorie deficit is too big. If you're losing lots of weight every single week, then maybe you actually need to increase what you're eating and just slow it down a little bit so it's more sustainable. However, what it could be is that you've not got enough fiber in your diet or enough protein. Now, obviously, we spoke about protein last week, trying to slowly increase the level of protein you're having in order to control your appetite and slow down your digestion. But fiber plays a big part in that as well. So if you're tracking your food, if you're using something like MyFitnessPal, maybe look through it and have a look at what your fiber intake is currently like and see if there are ways you can increase that by adding things like extra fruit and veg or whole meal versions of carbohydrates to try and curb that hunger a little bit more. But you may simply find that just finding a way to control your appetite a little bit stops those cravings. So that's two things to try, and usually they are the things that work. So number one, don't be too restrictive, okay? If you are someone who has a sweet tooth, if you need to have something sweet every single day, just make it work. Find a way to fit it into your daily calorie intake. Number two, if you think you are consuming all these things or you're craving all these things because you are hungry, find a better way of controlling your appetite, okay? If you've got any questions about that, or if there's anything else you'd like me to cover in the group, then please let me know. I hope that helps, guys. A bit of a quick video today, but I hope that helps you, and I will speak to you soon.